Well, we have about an hour until the big final countdown, but most countries have already welcomed the new year. We take a look at celebrations here on Delmarva and around the world. Plus, part 2 of our week-long special on heroin abuse on the peninsula. WMDT's Emily Lampa shows us why the users and dealers are getting younger and younger and what we must do to protect our children. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm David Caldwell. Emily has the night off. More news in less time starts now. Well, as you celebrate the start of a new year, state and local police departments across Delmarva will be out in force to make sure everyone has a happy and safe New Year's. State police say they will be out well into the early morning hours with drunk driving patrols. They will also assist local law officials in DUI checkpoints. Since Thanksgiving, troopers have increased patrols aimed at getting drunk drivers off the roads. And as you toast in 2014, the National Institutes of Health is debunking some of the myths when it comes to drinking. Like, what exactly defines just one drink? Well, one drink is technically 12 ounces of beer, a 5-ounce glass of wine, or a 1.5-ounce shot of hard liquor. And be careful about those mixed drinks. They can contain multiple shots of alcohol, making them equal to 2 or 3 drinks instead of just one. So remember, by getting behind the wheel of a vehicle after knocking back a few, you could be putting not only your life, but the lives of others in jeopardy, which is why Delaware State Police say once you have had anything to drink, hand over your keys to your designated driver. And be sure to look out for others as well. If you see someone else drinking too much, call them a cab. Also, don't ride as a passenger in a car driven by someone who has been drinking. Even just one drink, whatever it may be, can impair a person's judgment. And besides being a matter of public safety, not handing over your keys after one too many meaning one, it could cost you a pretty penny. For a DUI, lawyers charge a standard fee of $1,000. Court costs, that's another $300. If you have probation, count on $80 a month for a case that will typically run 18 to 24 months. If you're arrested for a DWI, you'll be thrown into a cruiser and then your car will be towed. That will cost you an additional $250. On top of that, officials say don't forget about insurance costs that will definitely come into play. So to sum it all up here, folks, just be safe out there tonight and exercise good judgment. Make sure you call a cab if you plan on drinking at all this evening. We would simply hate to have to report about you or your loved ones on tomorrow's news. But on a much lighter note, even though we are still minutes away from the new year here in the U.S., many countries are already hours into 2014. Marcy Gonzalez joins us now with a look at today's celebrations.
Bright and beautiful 2014 starting with a bang. The New Year's celebrations began this morning. Auckland, New Zealand among the first places to say goodbye to 2013. Every hour after, another stunning show. From Australia, where more than 1 million people gathered to watch the fireworks display over the Sydney Opera House, to the extravagant light show and singing crowds in Shanghai. In Scotland, this isn't a one-night celebration. Their New Year's festival lasts 3 days.
It's absolutely magical.
And here in the U.S., the preps for tonight's festivities are well underway. In Atlanta, the giant peach that will drop at midnight will have company this year. In Mobile, Alabama, they'll ring in the new year with a 600-pound moon pie. And, of course, here in New York, they've tested the confetti and prepped the nearly 12,000-pound Waterford crystal ball, the crossroads of the world, ready to ring in 2014.
And of course, it's not too late to get in on all the action. We'll have the details on several unique New Year's celebrations and ball drops right here on Delmarva a bit later in our newscast. But first, let's send it over to meteorologist Travis Michaels to see what 2014 is bringing us weather-wise. Hey, Travis.
Well, how's it going, David? Quite a mix of weather, actually, as we kick off the new year. But for the rest of tonight, though, if you haven't headed out just yet, you want to bundle up. 32 degrees for us here in Salisbury. The winds on the calm side, which is some very good news. And speaking of temperatures across the peninsula, our weather watchers calling in, and I'd like to wish our weather watchers a happy new year. We're looking at 31 degrees for Stand Obies in Rehoboth Beach. Chucky Plummer and Lewis, 30 degrees. We've got Tom Lockerman in Bridgeville, 28, below that freezing mark. Right above the freezing mark for Kenny Wheatley in Cambridge, and right on the water surrounding, of course, the Waterview area, 40 degrees for Tom Hubrick. Now, if you looked up this afternoon, we saw a lot of sunshine out there. Going to see a lot of clear skies tonight. That does help with our temperatures dropping off, so it's going to be a cool night tonight. We're going to be talking about the chances for even some snow coming up Thursday, and then much, much cooler air for your Friday and heading into the weekend. Details and all that, plus your 7-day forecast in just a few more minutes. David?
All right, thank you, Travis. And moving now to some local headlines, former Delaware Chief Justice E. Norman Veazey is urging the public to read his newly released campaign finance investigation carefully. Critics have argued that it fails to hold certain individuals accountable, including Governor Jack Markell and his campaign, who allegedly helped donors break campaign contribution laws. In a statement released today, Veazey says, quote, "As public prosecutors, we are bound by the law and the need to prove every element of every crime beyond a reasonable doubt," end quote. The more than 2-year investigation began after businessman Christopher Tijani pleaded guilty to using his family's beer distributorship to bundle thousands in illegal contributions to both state and federal candidates. For the full background on this case, just head to WMDT.com. Fraternity hazing in the headlines again, and again, it hits close to home. Stories of paddled pledges and teens consuming copious amounts of alcohol until they pass out. Those specific examples, though, are just a few of the allegations against a Salisbury University fraternity. A warning, some details we're about to tell you may be considered disturbing. Bloomberg News reports the account of a former SU student who pledged Sigma Alpha Epsilon in the spring of 2012. The then 19-year-old victim told reporters of a March night during which he stood in a trash can filled waist-deep with ice, wearing only his underwear, as fraternity members sprayed him with a hose and poured buckets of water over his head. Also, SAE fraternity members reportedly confined recruits for as long as 9 hours in a dark basement without food, water, or a bathroom, the whole time blasting a German rock song on repeat. WMDT confirmed these events with SU, and the school tells us not only are they aware, but they also suspended the fraternity last spring for 2.5 years. In fact, the university no longer lists SAE on their Greek Life website. And according to officials, students sign a code of conduct saying they understand the severity of hazing. In a statement from the university emailed to WMDT and paraphrased, they say the earliest the fraternity would be able to recruit freshman members would be spring of 2015. The university supports a healthy and productive Greek life. Hazing and other illegal activities are not tolerated. A volunteer alumni advisor for SAE's Salisbury chapter told Bloomberg members said there was no hazing, and he believes them. University officials could not tell us if any individual students were punished.
WMDT 47 News Special Report.
Our special report on heroin abuse on Delmarva continues tonight, with the efforts of a special task force in Worcester County now working together to get this problem under control. But they're noticing a troubling new statistic. Heroin users and dealers are getting younger and younger. WMDT's Emily Lampa tells us why.
18 recent heroin-related arrests made by undercover officers in Worcester County, Maryland. Of that number, exactly half are under the age of 25.
Kids almost, 19 to 22.
About 8 years ago, Tracy Simpson started working for the county's drug court program. At that time, she says she worked mostly with addicts of cocaine or crack cocaine.
Very rarely did I ever hear of anyone using heroin.
Until 4 years ago, when she started seeing the shift towards opioid abuse, when prescription drug abusers started making their way through the justice system. And law enforcement reacted, cracking down on prescription drugs across the peninsula.
The pill market dried up essentially, and they had to basically turn their attention or their focus onto another source,
which was heroin, a cheaper, more readily available alternative. Half a decade ago, most heroin abusers arrested ranged in age from 35 to 50. But in just the last 2 years, more of the arrests were teens.
What triggered it for me was I started seeing people being arrested and prosecuted by myself that did not fit into the typical drug profile, I suppose.
Talking to these young people, prosecutors and health experts in Worcester County found that they were getting hooked on pills that they found in their own homes.
When they see something in a cabinet or at a friend's house in a cabinet, or something that they think is safe, because it's a medication, why would that be safe?
But when the pills run out, that's when things take a quick and dangerous turn. Simpson says it can take users as little as 1 to 2 years to go from pill poppers to full-blown heroin addicts.
It is not a long process. I think people are under the misassumption that it is, but I have 19-year-olds who are intravenous users.
Emily Lampa, WMDT 47 News.
So, how are our young people getting their hands on an illicit drug like heroin? Well, apparently it's not from a drug dealer on the corner. Undercover officers tell WMDT the heroin drug trade has changed over the years, and those people dealing the drug aren't what you'd expect. Tomorrow night in part 3 of this special series, WMDT's Emily Lampa sits down with undercover detectives who share the inner workings of this troubling new trend. Now to some of the stories making headlines across our nation this evening. Apple says it played no role in the National Security Agency's alleged efforts to hack the iPhone. Officials say they were unaware of a recently revealed program disclosed by a privacy advocate of an NSA-designed software implant intended to turn an iPhone into a pocket-sized informer that secretly records audio, steals files, and harvests contact information. It's one of many disclosures over the past 6 months. The end of the Farm Bill has sparked fears that the price of a gallon of milk will spike to $7. But Secretary of Agriculture Tim Vilsack says it won't happen right away, and if Congress can work out a new measure to avoid a price hike, it may not even happen at all. Now, should Congress fail to come to such an agreement, experts predict milk prices won't go up until March or April. Still to come tonight, those that are newly insured but are still waiting for their health plan ID numbers may be in luck. How a national drugstore chain is lending a helping hand. And some people call tomorrow National Hangover Day. We have some tips to help you stay clear-headed tomorrow. Those details up next in your Family Health Report.
Find these stories and more at WMDT.com.